You're recording, yes.
Okay, all right, now we're recording. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Borough Council meeting. I'm calling tonight's regular meeting to order. Can you please read the sunshine? Can you please read the sunshine notice? Sorry, my mic was off.
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the 2022 meeting dates was published in the Courier News and Bernardsville News on December 9th, 2021, and posted at the Municipal Complex in the Borough Library. Action may be taken.
Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman Caminetti.
Here.
Council President Corliano.
Here.
Councilwoman Dietrich.
Here.
Councilman Lemon.
Here.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Here.
Councilman Sweeney.
Here.
Mayor Skinner.
I'm here. Okay, moving on to public comments, 5 minutes per person for non-agenda items. It's the policy of the Borough Council that all public comments on an issue shall be limited to 5 minutes per person. Comments may be made on any non-agenda subject pertaining to borough issues. Comments pertaining to public hearings should be saved for that section of the agenda. There'll be no debating between residents. Comments should be addressed to the mayor and council at the public microphone. And if you do say something, we do need your name and address before you speak. So, opening it up to public comments for non-agenda items. Come on down.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Downey. I reside at 99 Main Street. I'm a member of the Land Use Board, and we had a couple issues that concerned me, and I wanted to address them before the board today.
Are you speaking on behalf of
No, I'm
role as
speaking.
land use board member?
No, I'm
or-
speaking as a citizen. It's just that's where I got made aware of this. The first issue has to do with the Lackawanna property, where we were informed that it was going to be a grant for a rehabilitation program. And when I read the statute, it said that not only did the sewer and water lines have to be over 50 years old, but they needed to be in need of repair or major maintenance. And when I asked if our town engineer had a finding of that, they said no, we did not ask the engineer to see if in fact there's anything wrong with those. With that aspect of Lackawanna, the sewer and water. So I don't really understand why you can, if the statute says it's both 50 years and a finding of needing major repairs, why at least we haven't asked our engineer to do that. So it's
Chris, to your point, I mean, I was at that meeting, as was the mayor. What I came away from when you asked that question was that both John Zabel and Roger Thomas indicated that that the way it had been interpreted was that you did not have to make that showing.
I find that hard to believe. This the statute says there's a word of "and" that you don't have to find that. So, and I would ask Mr. maybe Bruder to look into that. It just doesn't seem that the statute would allow that. I was 35 years ago. I was a sewage attorney, and sewage pipes last, for a long time. So it's just the idea that just because it's an age doesn't really seem to qualify. So I just bring that to the attention. The next thing I wanted to raise was the overlay zone out on 206. And I'm concerned about the permitted uses. Number 3 was an electrical vehicle charging system open to the public. I was then informed by our planner that the idea was it was going to be like 2 little charging stations that you might find at any new office park or something for the use of people. But when I then said, no, that doesn't really sound right. If it's a permitted use, sounds to me like they're going to really have a Tesla supercharging station. And when I looked that up, there's a lot of them that are like 24 stalls. I found out that for the Tesla superchargers, it takes about 15 minutes. But a lot of those stations include lounges, a lot of restrooms, and I was informed by there are our professionals that they didn't think that was the case, but it seems to me that that is the case. And so that's a residential area. And I don't really know if without any conceptual idea of where this is going to be located and how it's going to be separated from the 5 families that lived on that site, it just seems to be, when we granted it, it was for a permitted use and the housing. And this is sort of, I'm not opposed to it, but I want to approve permitted uses and not have any conceptual idea or any limitations in the ordinance. Just seems to be lacking. When we did overlays like for the property across from Pfizer, that had first gone through a long site plan review where we hashed it out. We sort of saw what was done, and then it was done that way. This idea that I don't know how many members of your council participated in these discussions to grant this, but I didn't hear either the mayor or Mr. Sweeney tell us that it was going to be more than that. But I think it is, and if it's not, we should be informed. But that's the one issue, and then the final issue I wanted to address is back to Lackawanna, where a new permitted use is boutique hotels, and extended stay hotels. So it's 2 different new permitted uses, and there's no mention that you'll take away the square footage that was permitted for commercial. There's no mention it's going to take away from the 43 residential units that's presently permitted there. Again, these are things that need to be flushed out. And then parking. It's 1 per hotel room plus 1 per maximum shift employee. That site is already under the parking requirements of the Peapack zoning ordinance for parking. And so to already grant them something where we don't know what the parking needs are. What about visitors? If it's extended stay, you would assume there's going to be visitors parking. It just seems to be that that's the kind of thing that a site plan or a conceptual plan where it's flushed out before the public and zoning officials, members of the zoning board, etc. Just seems to be, I understand it's affordable housing, and that is sort of the parameter of the borough council, but it seems to be that.
If I could, the ordinance does not preclude a site plan review. It's anticipated that what is going to be done there would have.
I understand there will be a site plan at one time, but to already grant more uses that are already permitted, okay, that seems to be a folly when there's no parking outside of that Lackawanna area. Okay, it's not like all of a sudden where we have lots of excess parking where if it's over. So I've raised those.
Chris, I suppose it's okay that you're mentioning these things tonight, but you realize that the second reading of this ordinance is at the next meeting, and there's a public comment or portion of the meeting associated with that ordinance at that time.
I do understand. I guess I want to make sure that you're prepared to answer some of the questions I raised today, and I may not be. I may be visiting my grandchildren that week.
Good.
Okay.
Maybe I also want to reiterate with respect to both these developments, they still do require coming to the land use board for a site plan approval.
But if you give a permitted use, if it's a permitted use already, okay,
Yes.
and you're giving 2 additional, at the Lackawanna, 2 additional uses, extended hotels, which we don't know, our town doesn't know anything about extended hotels, boutique hotels, those are 2 separate concepts. It just seems to be that before you grant those uses, you should have some type of conception. The developer should go before us and explain it, what they actually want. In Far Hills, when they did their affordable housing, they had requests for proposals. It was put forth to the public. We could see what their plans were. People could comment, and they could
I guess
choose.
you don't remember the whole hearing we went through a year and a half ago where Melillo came with us with renderings and site plans.
No, there was no
for the
site
whole-
plans. He had a couple of ideas. This might be.
No, he had full plans showing where the buildings were, what the buildings would look like, okay?
He had some conceptual drawings.
Well, of course they were conceptual, it's not
But,
built yet.
yeah, it's not anything close to
Mr. Mayor,
what.
the time
Yeah,
has expired.
you were past your 5 minutes, so.
Okay, I appreciate your time.
But please come to the, if you can, to the public hearing.
Okay.
Just-
Can I just ask a question about Chris's comment about the charging station? So, are we changing the permitted use, like the zoning of where FinPro is?
It's called an overlay ordinance, so it's still, FinPro is still located in the office research
Right.
laboratory zone. But the overlay is, to use Chris's term, is permitting, is permitting the additional use of residential for affordable housing.
Right,
It's
And a storage facility.
and
in a storage facility. What about the
In
charging?
lieu of what the FinPro,
And.
Right,
yeah,
no, I'm aware of that. I guess the charging station is what I'm asking, like,
And
is
the
that?
ability to do a charging station.
Okay,
Yeah.
but there's no limitation on the size of a charging station? Like, I guess when we talked about it in prior meetings, I'm thinking sort of what Chris said, you know, a little charging station's not
Not a gas station.
Not like basically electric
Elec-
gas station.
yeah.
So when we allow this permitted use, is there any definition of, or is it just a broad
Well,
umbrella?
it was not written into the ordinance, but Melillo's representation was he was looking to dedicate a couple spaces, I seem to remember the number 2 to 4,
Right,
to allow vehicles to charge there.
okay, I do think it's
Okay.
important to make that clear that we don't want a charging
Gas station.
gas
gas
station.
station.
We're happy to have 2 to 4 units at the front of a parking spot.
Well, I will tell you that the coverage ratio of that lot is such that he could never put that in anyway, because he doesn't have the area to do it.
And Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not on the land use board currently, but isn't there a mandate on certain new construction? There must be.
That's what
Yeah.
was represented by
Charging
John
stations.
Zabel, the planner, that,
Right.
that it's
And that's
not-
fine.
it's
I'm
not
all for
mandatory.
charging stations. I just don't want a
if I
gas
can just add to that, yes, that's mandated, and so you don't need to put it as a permitted use in your ordinance, okay? Because as a permitted use, you're actually allowing a Tesla superstation, and again, and there's no limits put forth. That's this whole idea.
Chris, in fairness,
thank
to
you.
mention a Tesla superstation is being very dramatic. To have a 24/7 Tesla superstation along the 405 in Los Angeles makes sense. It certainly doesn't make sense for Route 206, which is a 2-lane road.
We don't
Two-lane
know
highway.
what the future is.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Just FYI, the land use board did review the ordinance and found it, what's the term?
Consistent.
Not inconsistent.
Not
Double
inconsistent,
negative.
right.
Consistent.
With the master plan.
Okay.
But there was also a memo that was supposed to be forthcoming that I have not seen, with some comments on the ordinance. For example, Chris also raised at the meeting, the time that those charging stations would be open, the time that the storage facility would be open, and expressed some concerns about that as well.
Good points.
If
Well, as a
we-
practical matter, John Bruder, wouldn't we be able to have this as a conditional permitted use for the site, which would, by definition, force it back to the land use board when, in fact, the plans for developing that
Yeah,
are in place?
Yeah, and I think as Mark said, this is gonna be going back before the land use board.
So the land
No,
use
it
board
wouldn't
would
be.
have an opportunity to review the detriments and benefits
Site plan?
and
No,
to
not the
weigh
site
them,
plan, the site plan still has to go to the land.
Yeah.
placement and,
Oh.
yeah, all of those things.
Anybody else in the public for non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, closing the non-agenda item, or public comments for non-agenda items. Moving on to old business. Any old business?
No,
Any new business? Moving on to new business. Okay, moving on to miscellaneous discussions and approvals. I'll do the second one first. Request for waiver of road opening permit for the newly paved roadway in the summer and fall of 2021. Who wants to take that one?
I can tell you, I received this information from a homeowner on Tainter that would like to, his letter is in the packet that was sent out to everybody. That would like to open up the road that was paved last summer or fall of 2021, to put in a full house generator, because he has his elderly parents living in that home with them, and they cannot be without heat or anything once that does. And we do have a moratorium, which I did send out our ordinance regarding that. When I did speak to Bill Ryden regarding this, our engineer, he stated that this was an appeal that goes to the council for their decision as to whether or not this road can be opened.
And is it, oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
I was just asking, is it 3 years or 5 years for a newly paved road? I forget.
I think it's 5 years, or it can be 3 years depending on what has been done to the road. Since this was a repaving, I think it is at a 3-year moratorium.
I'd like to remind the council that maybe right at the beginning of COVID or right before the beginning of COVID, we had a resident come in who wanted Highland Avenue opened up, which was just recently repaved, to put a gas line in. We denied that resident that ability. They ended up putting a propane tank in for their generator. So,
I thought they found a way to do it
Yeah,
without.
Yeah,
just
they
past
found a
that.
way.
no, they didn't.
Oh, I thought they.
No, they
Just-
didn't. They put a tank in.
Because just past the, where the construction site was, they were able to get into the gas main on their property.
Maybe we're talking about different properties. This was Williams.
Yeah.
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 No, that's the
Yeah.
one I thought they were,
Williams put in
they were gonna be
propane.
able to access it from further up.
Right,
Hi-
and then
Hi-
sweep down or
Highland,
something.
where the
They were
where
not
the
able
road
to.
wasn't
They were
paved.
not able to do that.
I do feel like,
It's, well, I mean, I was on the council when we, you know, when at least a version of this was implemented, you know, and it was, you know, came from our D.
Is the resident here tonight in the room? No?
But,
What I'm suggesting is that if we
Mark, to-
did not allow it for somebody just a couple years ago, I don't know how we can allow
that
this.
application, I don't remember what the language of the ordinance was, whether it was permitted for emergency purposes or quote emergent purposes, because I seem to remember it back and forth on that word. You know, so I think what we need to do is, I think we need to take a look at our own ordinance and see whether or not the case that they're pleading constitutes an emergency situation.
yeah,
Does-
and a thing with the generator, I mean, there is options for non-gas powered, like, or not hooked up to the line.
Because
like-
if you get a propane generator, you can get a conversion to go to natural gas eventually.
Right.
So, I mean, if they
So-
did a propane generator for the 2 years, and then it's
And
a
then
pretty
they switched
easy
it.
conversion.
And
Yeah.
the tank could be above ground, so there wouldn't have to be any excavating, they would just take it off with the coupling and then
Right.
connect at that time.
There are workarounds.
I'm more concerned about us not. We have to do what, we need to be consistent.
I don't disagree at all.
Yeah,
Okay, if we didn't allow one person to do it and they found an alternate solution, I can't see why it's harm.
Bottom line, no matter how they did it, how they got it, they got the hookup,
Yeah,
we didn't permit it on the Williams project.
yeah.
and the resident on Highland dropped their request. After we reviewed it and discussed it and talked about alternate ways to get gas into the property, they ended up going with delivered gas.
So are we gonna look at it further vis-a-vis the roads committee, or are we comfortable saying that it doesn't, you know, that it doesn't qualify as I'm gonna say emergency?
I can reach out to the resident too and discuss the options.
I think we say we can't do it, but yeah, I mean, I
you're
wouldn't say,
comfortable-
no, we're not doing it, but hey, look into, you could get a
Yeah.
propane generator, which could be converted back to natural gas, you know, when the time is right, or when the time permits. And then, but then they have their backup generator that goes on when the power goes off automatically.
And John, I do know our ordinance does allow openings, obviously, for emergencies.
If there's a water main
And,
break, we're
yeah,
fixing it.
Right.
And maybe we need to look at that and say, I mean, I know a water main break is obviously an emergency.
Or a gas line break.
Yeah.
But right now, I think the way the ordinance is written, it doesn't classify elder care as an emergency situation.
Especially when there's other viable options.
Right.
There was no other option, but there are.
Okay, then with the concurrence of the council, I'll reach out to the resident and discuss some of the options and report back.
Fair enough. Is that okay?
So we're denying this, I'm guessing, right,
Yes.
for the record? Okay.
Correct.
Sounds like, on the topic of propane generators, I guess it's old business, sorry. Our generator here, did we look into that?
the natural gas.
Yeah, because it's propane, we were gonna look into, we were supposed to
Shifting
use
over to
it.
gas?
Natural gas, have we gotten anywhere with that? Sorry, we were talking about generators.
Before we go forward, Nancy advises me, we need to concur with what GP just proposed.
Oh, I thought we did, okay.
Concur.
Do we
Concur.
concur with the,
Yes.
Concur.
yes, with the
Just so
denying
it's on
the
the
road
record.
opening?
Dan was looking into that. I will speak with him tomorrow and find
Okay.
out where he
Okay.
stands at
Sorry to
that.
go off on a tangent, but.
No, that's fine. I will find out from Dan where he stands with
Okay.
that.
Okay, the next one is request for proclamation of flag raising for organizations. I think with that, we just have to stick with a Supreme Court case that if we open it up to one group, we have to open it up to everybody. So we decided just to do political subdivisions of the United States flags, right? The shortened version of it.
Right.
So,
And that's consistent with our decision last year when we had a
Right.
request for
Right.
something similar and we
Right.
denied it.
so
And the same thing with the proclamations. You will not be, if you do it for one. you
one
need-
group, then we have to do it whoever asks. Yeah.
Right, so we're not doing it for
Right.
any.
Right.
Okay.
And just because there was a Supreme Court decision, a case in Boston, I believe, right? Was that it?
That's
Where
For the flags, yeah.
Yeah, for flags, where they had a public flagpole, which they put whatever, and then a group was denied, and the city lost, so. All right, moving on to readings and approval of minutes, executive session meeting minutes of January 11th, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve the executive session minutes of January 11th?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Caminetti?
Yes.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Executive session meeting minutes of January 17th, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve the executive session minutes of January 17th?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Council President, Councilman Caminetti?
Yes.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
The special joint with the Land Use Board meeting minutes of March 16th of this year. Do I have a motion to approve the special joint meeting minutes of March 16th?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Caminetti?
Abstain.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to ordinances, public hearing.
We had one more set
Oh,
of minutes.
26.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Do I have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 26th, 2022?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Caminetti?
Yes.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Abstain.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Thank you for keeping me on my toes. Ordinances, a public hearing of ordinance 11/10/2022, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriations limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 48:4-45.14. Do I have a motion to open a public hearing for ordinance 11/10/2022?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
Roll call to open the public hearing.
Councilman Caminetti?
Yes.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Okay, is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this? Okay, seeing no public comments, I'm gonna have a motion, or can I have a motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 11/10?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
motion to adopt.
I have to do a roll call.
or-
I have to do a
Oh,
roll call
roll,
to
yeah,
close.
you're right, thank you. Roll call, man, I'm
Councilman
slipping.
Caminetti?
Yes.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Okay, now can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 11/10/2022?
So moved.
Second.
Second, roll call.
Councilman Caminetti?
Yes.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Okay, ordinance 11/10/2022 is adopted and shall be published by title only in the Burnsville News in accordance with the law. Public hearing and adoption of the 2022 budget. You have to present this?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to take it
So
over.
I'll make a motion that we
open.
have a public hearing
Okay, thank you.
on it for Mark to present.
Do I have a second public hearing? Or a second, all right, and a roll call to open a public hearing presented by Mark.
Councilman Caminiti?
Yes.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Okay, present, and then we'll have questions.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here with us tonight. As Chair of the Finance Committee, I'm going to do a brief budget presentation for the benefit of our residents and those listening in. Unfortunately, those listening in will not be able to see this. It's on a monitor in our room here. But those sitting here, if you just take a look at that monitor on the right, which is mirroring my screen, I will go through the, I don't know how to get it on both. I know Tom did it last time, but. Yeah, I don't know how you did it, but I can get it on this one. But anyway, I think we're okay.
Well, Don,
with
you've
one.
got the same degree as Tom. Can you do it?
Can everyone here see this? Okay, you're welcome to move up front or sit in these two chairs here. So I'd like to go over the budget, the 2022 budget and tax levy. Okay. So where do your taxes go? When you pay your real estate taxes, where do they go? They really go to 6 different areas under 3 different taxing entities: the borough, the school, and the county. And under the borough, most of your taxes go to our operations. Some of them go to open space fund. School, all of it goes to operating the school. And in the county, the money goes to both their operations, all their operations, their library, and their open space trust fund. You should also be aware that separately and apart from your taxes, for those residents who have sewer service, which is nearly most of our residents, we do have a separate utility authority. Right? It's a utility, and we bill users of that authority directly. So in 2022, where will your tax dollars go? Well, for every dollar that we collect from you in taxes, 32 cents or 32.2% of that goes to the borough. Most of that goes to operations, as you can see, 30.6%. The remainder goes into the open space and recreation trust fund. Solely the biggest amount is 46.9% to operate the schools. That goes to the school board. And 20.9% goes to the county, spread over county operations at 16.75%. The remainder to the library system, which operates our library here, and open space. And I'm reading out these numbers even though you can all in the audience see them, because there may be some people on YouTube that are watching this. Here's a graph that pretty much shows where the money goes. The red being municipal operations, yellow being school, and then county is green. And then those small slivers are those open space trust funds in the library.
And the red would be the only portion that we have any kind of control over whatsoever.
Well said, John. So let's look at the real numbers. In 2022, the borough intends to levy $4.439 million for its operations. And I'll explain that more in a second. We intend to levy $235,000 to the Open Space and Recreation Trust Fund, $6.8 million for schools, and then the remainder of approximately $3 million goes to the county. So in this year, we intend to levy, this tax year, we intend to levy $14.5 million in real estate taxes to every property in town to cover these expenses. Let's get into where these expenses come from. But before I do that, let me just discuss ratables. As everyone knows, your tax, the amount of tax you pay is based on your ratable, what your property is valued at. The borough has essentially four different types of ratables. 1 is vacant land, 2 is residential, 3 is farmland, and 4 is commercial. And as you can see, our assessor in 2022 valued all of our properties at $784 million, up from $751 million in 2021. And the bulk of that, of course, is residential, although we do have a fair amount of commercial at $138 million. Okay. In 2022, the average residential Peapack and Gladstone property valued at $784,000. That's the average property in town. And as you can see, I have some numbers down below. that on that average property, the municipal tax paid is $4,435, and the total tax on that property based on the calculated tax rate would be $14,400. And as a comparison, I have some prior years down below. Believe it or not, Somerset County hasn't come out with the 2021 average bill number, although they should have because they billed it already. But as you can see, Peapack Gladstone properties do tax higher than on average the county as well as the state, because obviously the average valuation is higher. Okay, so we use a term in which I'll discuss in a second. Actually, let me move a slide forward. We use a term in government called appropriations. If you're a business owner or you're a resident operating a household, you would call that expenses. We call it appropriations, and there's a reason for that. And what appropriations very simply are is the budgeted expenses to operate the borough. So we set a budget, a rather complex 700-line budget for each of our departments, in which we use to allocate and require that our department heads manage their monies so as to operate the borough within the parameters of the budget line items. We use a fund accounting methodology on a cash basis. As part of our appropriations, we do budget for the potential of uncollected taxes. The borough does unfortunately face the specter of uncollected taxes here. We budget based on a statutory requirement. Fortunately, while we budget that we expect to collect 93% of our taxes, we in fact really collect about 96, 97% of our taxes, if not a little bit more. Again, I mentioned earlier that the sewer utilities is a separate entity. Some of our, everything gets expensed, so to speak. So we take some of our expenses and put them into a fund, such as capital improvements, and we pay for certain items out of the capital improvement fund. The departments, which I'm going to show you in just a second, which is, to those of you who know accounting, is a chart of account structure, is set by the state. So if you see one department, for example, DPW as an example, and you see a number in there of $385,000, and honestly that department really costs us more than that to operate, because there are certain elements that would be applied to that department, certain expenses that apply to that department, that the state requires us to track separately, such as taxes on payroll, such as pensions, such as healthcare.
And don't forget that if you use DPW, that it's coming out of two different budgets.
That is correct. And what John's referring to is DPW is actually, we charge DPW out to a number of different budgets: buildings and grounds, streets and roads, and sewer. So thank you. That's a good point, John. So how do we pay for this $6.8 million budget to operate Peapack and Gladstone? Well, we have some revenues outside of taxation. So we collect certain fees and revenues, such as you see here, ABC. ABC is Alcohol Beverage Commission. And we collect fees for the town, for the establishments in town that have liquor licenses. We collect certain fees and permits in our clerk's office. We collect revenue through the municipal court, which is essentially tickets, so to speak. We collect interest either on taxes that are late, or interest on investments we have, or money we invest. We do have other sources of revenue. We have something called an energy tax receipt, which are funds that the state gives us. It's really for the most part, it's the only funds we see from the state of New Jersey. Those funds, I don't know why that went off, but those, I think the TV turned off. Just give me a second. Okay. Let's see. Bear with me, I believe I have to reconnect. So much for working in IT, right? Whenever I used to do presentations, or I still do, your biggest fear is always
This.
is exactly this. Your computer goes out while you're in the middle of a presentation, and I don't know why that happened. Didn't happen to you, Tom, right?
No, I was hardwired into the wall.
Oh, you were. Oh, that's why. Okay.
I Instructor,
Tell 'em go
methods of
come up here and
instructor
take over.
class, always have a spare bulb for the projectors.
Yeah, we have
that
to.
kind of thing.
That's right.
Okay, we're back here. So, energy tax receipts is actually a very sensitive one to us, because back in the 70s, we used to get all the revenue from the power lines that ran through town, and the poles, and the telephone lines, and the cable lines. And the state took that away, and they started giving us it back through a grant or a fund. And over the years, that has kind of dropped. So today, we get back about a third of the funds that the state collects from those utilities.
You're batting 1,000.
Yeah, I don't know why that went out again, but. I don't know if it's the TV, but
Saying go faster.
I think the TV's just shutting down, yeah. Okay, let's move on.
We've got a not-so-smart TV,
Yeah,
maybe a smart aleck TV.
there we go. I guess I'll just keep cursoring to keep this thing alive. In addition to that, the borough has surplus funds. We call them fund balance, okay? Think of fund balance if you're in business as your retained earnings. If you're a resident or a homeowner, think of it as your money that you keep in your savings account. And we take a portion of that every year and help that to fund our budget with the hopes that we put it back. So I don't know why I'm disconnecting constantly here, so I may not be able to get this back for you.
Just proceed.
Okay. We have a number of different appropriation accounts, and I had a list to show you up here. Each of these accounts represent basically a department or an area, such as taxes or, as I mentioned earlier, streets and roads. I'm looking right now at a graph that shows how that's allocated. If you'd like to see that, hit me at the end of the meeting. And what it really shows is we spend the most money departmentally on police, followed by capital improvement, healthcare, administration, and the like. In 2022, we did allocate money for capital projects. I'll let you know what they are. We are paying off the balance of a dump truck that we bought in December with a plow to replace a 20-year-old dump truck, plow truck, and salt spreader. We authorized the purchase of a front end loader, which is the device that they use for road work as well as to load the salt into the trucks. We authorized the purchase of a new dump body to mount on one of our chassis. The chassis is good, but it needs a new body on the back, which is rusted out, mostly from spreading salt. We did authorize the purchase of an additional pickup truck with a plow, the balance on the rescue truck that we ordered for the fire department. This year, we're planning to spend $150,000 on road resurfacing, and we were allocating $40,000 towards a future project to put sidewalks on Holland Avenue. In the sewer area, we're budgeting $50,000 for manhole and sewer rehabilitation, as well as paying for a portion of those 3 vehicles that I mentioned earlier. And then we're budgeting $44,000 of that of the Open Space and Recreation Trust Fund, essentially for trails projects. The Borough Council, and specifically myself and John Sweeney as your chairs on finance, strive to pay as you go. We're not looking to take on debt. In fact, we hope that Peapack Gladstone in 2029 will be debt-free, which will when our last bond expires. Although should there be an item that has an extra long life, we would consider paying for that through perhaps borrowed money. I'd like to do a special call out to the fire company. Last year, we budgeted a large amount of $45,000 or $48,000 for the replacement of SCBA equipment. And that was gonna be a 5-year project, so it was gonna be about $200,000. The fire department landed a grant of over $180,000, which is essentially free money that came to us. And they saved us having to budget for that this year and for the following 3 years. So just a shout out to them for making the effort to get those monies for us. I talked about briefly the sewer utility. Again, it's a separate area. It's budgeted separately. It's operated as its own fund. It's funded by user fees and shared service revenue. Last year, we reduced it for by $50 per year. We reduced the base fee for sewer users. Our costs have gone up in sewer substantially. In 2022, our sewer utility is budgeted for spending of about $1.5 million. And I would say we're probably looking at a modest sewer increase in 2023. As a reminder, the borough operates under state statute mandates regarding caps on appropriations and levy. It's a 2% levy cap and a 2.5% appropriations cap. What that means is we essentially can't raise your taxes more than 2% a year. I wish to acknowledge at this time those who have spent a lot of time on this budget, and I'm happy to show you the worksheet that we use to do it, although on our website you can find the user-friendly budget and look at that yourself. My second on the committee, John Sweeney, Nancy Bretzker, our administrator. I see that our CFO is in the audience, Dale Melville, a shout out to you. And by extension, Mayor Skinner, our Borough Council associates, and our department heads and advisors. A special thanks to somebody who I thought was gonna be here tonight. She must have gotten delayed.
She's on the,
Oh, she's on Zoom?
she's
Oh.
on Zoom.
Well, hello Heidi, how are you? Can you speak?
Yeah, there she
Hi, hi Heidi. So a special call out to Heidi. Heidi is a partner of Nisavachi. Nisavachi is our auditor. And Heidi has been absolutely a big help to me in creating this budget and putting it together. There's a lot of sources and a lot of inputs that come into this, but when it comes to the expertise on budgeting, even, you know, I've done this now for a number of years, and I still learn something new about it every year, but my go-to is always Heidi, and in some cases Dale. So I'd like to give Heidi an opportunity to speak if she wishes, but again, a special call and thanks to her. Heidi,
I couldn't join you in person. I just wanted to say that I know that a lot of thought has gone into the budget and a lot of careful time and attention is taken in constructing the budget, and I feel that it's a very strong budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Mayor, that's all I have as far as the budget presentation. Again, I apologize why this TV is not working quite right. But I think we should open up to any questions.
Sure. Anybody from the public would like to comment on our 2022 budget? Again, if you want to speak, come up, state your name and address, please. Okay, seeing none. We'll have a motion to close the public hearing on the budget.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Roll call vote to close the public hearing.
Councilman Caminetti,
Yes.
Council President Corliano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich,
Yes.
Councilman Lemma,
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy,
Yes.
Yeah.
Councilman
She's gonna
Sweeney.
read the title to adopt it.
Okay, moving on to resolution 111-222, resolution to read the 2022 budget by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Caminetti,
Yes.
Council President Corliano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich,
Yes.
Councilman Lemma,
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy,
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney.
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to, moving on to resolutions, do a consent agenda for resolution 112, 113, 114, and 120-22. So I have a motion to approve resolutions 112, 113, 114, and 120.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Caminetti,
Yes.
Council President Corliano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich,
Yes.
Councilman Lemma,
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy,
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney.
Aye.
Okay, resolution 115-22, resolution to adopt the amended housing element and fair share plan for the borough of Peapack and Gladstone. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 115-22?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Roll call
Would
vote.
you like a quick?
Yeah, Mark, just quick.
Okay, as Affordable Housing Chairman, let me give you a 2-second recap on this. So the borough is in the process of getting its final order of compliance and repose in the round 3 of affordable housing. One element of that is that we had to adopt an amended housing plan to reflect our plan for affordable housing in Peapack and Gladstone. This plan was prepared by our planner, and the borough, the land use board has consented or agreed with this plan that is consistent with the master plan. The council is now adopting it.
Okay, thank you. Roll call vote.
Councilman Caminetti,
Yes.
Council President Corliano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich,
Yes.
Councilman Lemma,
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy,
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney.
Aye.
Resolution 11622, resolution adopting the Affordable Housing Trust Fund spending plan for the Borough of Peapack and Gladstone as amended. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 11622?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Caminiti,
Yes.
Council President Corliano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich,
Yes.
Councilman Lemma,
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy,
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney.
Aye.
Resolution 11722, resolution accepting the resignation from Daniel Miguel, Director of Department of Public Works. Do I have a resolution to approve? Or do I have a motion to approve Resolution 11722?
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Caminiti,
Yes.
Council President Corliano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich,
Yes.
Councilman Lemma,
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy,
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney.
Aye.
I think I can speak for everybody on the council. We certainly wish him well in his future endeavors, and we thank him for the great work that he did while he was here. We're pulling Resolution 11822 from the table because it's work that's not going to be done. So moving on to Resolution 12122, resolution for authorization to accept change order number 10 from B&K Construction for work associated with the Liberty Park Improvement Project. I have a motion to approve Resolution 12122.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Caminiti,
Yes.
Council President Corliano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich,
Yes.
Councilman Lemma,
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy,
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the bills list.
Mayor, you forgot 120.
No, that was part of the consent.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
consent.
consent. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Resolution 11922, approval of bills assigned and listed on the bill payment list. Can you read the amount?
$1,319,455.34.
Is there anything that needs to be pulled for discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 11822?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Caminiti,
Yes.
Council President Corliano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich,
Yes.
Councilman Lemma,
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy,
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Should we do public comments, or because we have to go back into executive session?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So public comments
Let's
first.
do it now.
Okay, opening up the meeting to, we're going back into executive session. Opening up the meeting to public comments for agenda items, only things that were on the agenda, 3 minutes per person. It's the policy of the Borough Council that all public comments on an issue shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. There'll be no debating between residents. Comments should be addressed to the mayor and council at the public microphone. And again, if you step out, even if you've been here before, we do need your name and address. So are there any comments on the agenda items only? Okay. Oh.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, hi, John Kepler, 25 Holland Avenue. Just a quick question, now that Dan is retiring or leaving us, have you appointed a new oversight person for the park?
It's in process, correct?
Yeah, we're in the process.
It's in process, Mr. Kapler.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else from the public or out in go-to meeting land? Or virtual land, I guess? Okay, hearing none, do we see anybody?
Everybody's lighting up.
Closing the public comment session. Let's see, where's my,
We're done with the public comment?
right, yeah, so I'm
I'm
looking
gonna
for,
make a motion to go into executive
yeah,
session.
that's what I'm getting to, yes. So I have a motion to move back into executive session.
So moved.
And a second,
Second.
roll call vote?
Councilman Caminiti,
Yes.
I was
Council
trying to
President
find
Corliano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich,
Yes.
Councilman Lemma,
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy,
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney.
Aye.
Okay, action may or may not be taken, after executive session. We are closing the part, this, we have to go back into executive session. So we thank you, I don't wanna say you have to leave, but you do have to leave.
And no actions anticipated.
Yeah, no
You
action.
don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Thank you very much for coming.
If you wanted to stay for this part of it, because it's not in
Okay.
there. It's up to you. But you, if you don't mind, I left the tape.
You know, can I speak for one thing there, or?
That's closed.
It is closed,
Yeah.
right? So no, I don't want to talk nicely.
We're going back into another meeting, so I
Okay,
can't.
Yeah, yeah.
we'll reach out to,
Okay.
later. You know, we're kind of, the members of Falun Dafa Association, you know, we ask for the proclamation of Falun Dafa.
That was rejected tonight.
Yes,